Hi, and welcome back to another episode of New, Old, and Songs Untold. I'm your host, Nick, joined here with my co-host, Anna. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm a little under the weather, so
Well, at least it's
my
Friday.
voice might be a little crackly.
At least it's Friday.
Yeah.
It's episode 47. We're almost to 50, which is crazy.
Yeah. 50 is going to be a special episode. I don't know if we want to say now or not what we're doing for 50, but...
No, we'll let
okay,
it.
We'll keep
that
secret,
little
but
teaser there.
There's a little special episode for
We'll keep that
number
little
50.
teaser 3 episodes away. Today we're doing starting our decade, I guess, top 10s. So we're starting with the 50s.
Yeah.
Kind of where music kind of hit the big, I think, mainstream.
Yep, so we're kind of planning on we're going to do a bunch of these ones, but we're starting with the 50s. We'll do through probably the current day, present day decades. Best music of the decade.
So I guess for these decade, since this is our first episode with it, we'll do a little brief kind of very brief history.
Yeah, just so we can maybe see like the progression, how music has changed.
And obviously we'll talk about the music more when we get in our list too.
No, we're not talking about the music at all.
Nope,
That's not what we do here on this podcast.
Nope, not at all. So I'll just read this little thing from encyclopedia.com so you know it's reliable.
We cite our sources here.
I think it's a good like kind of wrap up of music in the 1950s was dominated by the birth of rock and roll. Rock and roll was a powerful new form of music that combined elements of rhythm and blues, pop, blues, and hillbilly music to create sounds that truly shook America. Ray Charles described the music when they get a couple of guitars together with a backbeat, that's rock and roll. Rock and roll was raw, powerful, compelling, and drew young people to the dance floor and into record stores in a way that no music has done before. So I think that's a perfect kind of description of what the 1950s were.
Kind of gives like the context of music at that time.
Well, what were your kind of thoughts going into this list?
I was really excited. I feel like I thought I didn't really know that much 50s music, but when I went through some lists and stuff, I actually knew like a decent amount and had a lot of favorites already. So it was really hard to pick. I feel like for all of these decades episodes, it's gonna be really hard to pick because there's just so much music. But yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, same way. I didn't really know what to expect. Not unfortunately, but I kind of pandered to a couple albums that I really like out of that era. So
yeah, for my list, I tried to have like not 2 songs of the same artist. But a lot of times I do that.
But yeah, lists. Just to pick 10, it was definitely very challenging, and that's why I think, depending how these episodes go, I think we will do part 2s at some point.
Yes,
for sure.
There's so many music.
Well, shall we get into the list?
Yeah.
All right.
So do you have a control list?
I do not. Why don't
I pull one up?
All right,
so
perfect.
Got one.
Perfect.
So this list is the top 10 songs that define the decade of the 50s.
Oh, okay. Where's it from? Just from
iloveclassicrock.com.
Love it. Not biased.
There's definitely like a 50-year-old dad that runs this website.
That's funny.
All right. So for number 10 for the list is Blueberry Hill by Fats Domino.
Oh, that's a good song.
That is a good song.
Just missed my list, actually.
It also just missed my list. Did I put it on there? No, I didn't.
All right. What was your number 10?
My number 10 is I Get Along Without You Very Well by Chet Baker. So this came out in 1954. It was actually composed in 1939, which like a lot of the songs I found, especially like the jazz songs, they were written in like the 30s, but then these artists just recorded them in the 50s, so I'm counting them as 50s music. But yeah, so the song's kind of about, from the title you would think that it's about like not wanting to be with someone, but it's actually about like sentimental memories and missing somebody. And I really like the sound of his voice. He's got a really interesting, I don't know if you've ever listened to Chet Baker.
Not that I remember.
Yeah, he's got like a really unique voice for like jazz music, and it has a very like dreamy, soft jazz sound to it. It's not like Miles Davis where it's really like more intense, but I love his vocals. They sound really like cool and like collected, and that's I Get Along Without You Very Well for my number 10.
All right, my number 10 is called Billy the Kid by Marty Robbins. Came out in 1959 off of Gunfighter Ballads and Trail Songs. So this is why I was biased, because
You love that album.
I love this album. I have a few on this, my top 10 here on this album. So this song, Billy the Kid, kind of just him telling the story of Billy the Kid. For people that's never listened to this album, it's very Western. It's Western music.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I love it so much, and it's storytelling. And I've talked about this numerous times, I think, on the podcast. I love storytelling in a song. So this album really drew to me in that aspect, and I love the whole vibe of the album. And this song is just my third favorite, spoiler for the future of my list, third favorite on the album. So it's Billy Kid by Marty Robbins.
Yeah, I almost put El Paso on my list, but didn't quite make it. I'm sure it's on your list.
It is.
All right, we're on to number 9.
Yes,
so number
number
9
9
for the list is Summertime Blues by Eddie Cochran.
Oh, that one just missed 2.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, now we're going to go on a tangent. So, because I didn't realize that, so this song, I think, is more overshadowed about its Alan Jackson sang it in the early 2000s or late 90s as a country song.
Gotcha.
And it's like Alan Jackson, I believe, just covered it.
Yeah, a lot of people have covered it, like Bruce Springsteen, Beach Boys.
But I'm going to be honest, I did not know that he was the original...
The OG?
The OG to that song. And it's such a, I should just put on my list to talk about it, but it's such a cool, it's a cool song because it sounds very country, but not,
yeah.
It's not, it's like very 50s country. That's a great way, I think,
which is almost like more like folk kind of country.
Yep.
Americana.
I like how we're just talking about a song that's not even on
our
our
list.
All right, so what's your number 9?
All right, my number 9 is Manish Boy by Muddy Waters. So this came out in 1955. It's kind of a classic blues song. It's about the affirmation of his masculinity, basically. And he just reworked a Bo Diddley song called "I'm a Man." It was kind of like a response to that / reworking of that song. But it's got this really memorable guitar. It's really easy, but it's very it's repetitive, but it's a really iconic guitar riff. And this riff appears on a million other songs, especially what's the song? Oh, his other song Hoochie Coochie Man also uses the same riff. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like the guitar sounds completely ahead of its time. It sounds straight out of a 60s rock and roll song to me. And blues was a really big influence for rock and roll in the 60s, especially the Rolling Stones. They actually got their name from one of Muddy Waters' songs, it's called Rolling Stone. And you can hear that in their music and a lot of the 60s music. But the song Bad to the Bone basically took this riff and just reworked it. So it sounds exactly everyone knows that song.
Yeah.
It's literally that riff. And it's just this is the original. But yeah, I just love the power and the rawness of the song. It sounds really cool. But that is Manish Boy for my number 9.
All right, my number 9 was Maybelline by Chuck Berry.
I wanted that song on my list so bad, but it didn't make it.
So it was released in 1955 on the B-side of Wee Wee Hours. It reached number 1 on the Billboard's Rhythm and Blues chart and number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's adapted from the part Western swing fiddle tune Ida Red. Barry's song told the story of a hot red race and a broken romance. The lyrics describe a man driving a V8 Ford and chasing his unfaithful girlfriend in her Cadillac coupe. I love this song. Is such a great early rock and roll song. It's Chuck Berry in general is, I think, he's probably my favorite 50s artist probably, and I think that's not a lot of people feel that way. He was revolutionary in
his guitar playing was incredible,
and he's just such a commanding voice to this song. And this song's even a little soft, quote unquote softer, I think, tone. I have another one of his songs on my list that's sounds a lot different,
maybe a little bit heavier.
Yeah, definitely.
If you can call a 50s song heavy, because none of them are like all that heavy.
No,
I feel like some songs would surprise you because there's surprisingly like hard-hitting songs that you wouldn't think were in the 50s.
There's this quote for this song, and by the Rolling Stones magazine wrote, the record was an early instance of a complete rock and roll package, youthful subject matter, a small guitar driven combo, clear direction, and atmosphere of unrelenting excitement, which I think best describes Chuck Berry, I think, to a to a T in that.
Yeah.
So that's my number 9, Maybelline.
All right.
What we got for number 8?
Number 8 for the list is Peggy Sue by Buddy Holly.
I didn't put any Buddy Holly on mine.
I've got one, but it's not that one. But it's a good song.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the classic 50s song, early rock and roll. All right, my number 8 is How Many More Years by Helen Wolfe. So another classic blues artist. This came out in 1951. And in this song, it's basically about a man being pushed around by a woman and wonders how much longer he can endure it. And then at the end of the song, he kind of is going to go get his stuff to leave, but you kind of left on a cliffhanger because you're not really sure if he actually left or not. And in some ways, a lot of people say that this song is like the first rock and roll song because it had the guitar lick that became central guitar lick in rock and roll music. And it's the first time that we heard that played on like a distorted guitar sound. And yeah, I love this song. It has a really like spastic piano in the beginning that I love. And his vocals are really like raw and muddy sounding. It's just such a cool sounding song. But that's How Many More Years for my number 8.
My number 8 is Don't Be Cruel by Elvis. It came out in 1956 on the A side of Hound Dog. It's written by Otis Blackwell, who has written a lot of hits in the 50s.
Yeah.
He wrote Fever, Great Balls of Fire, Breathless, Don't Be Cruel, All Shooken Up, to name just a few, and it's kind of wild. I didn't even realize. I kind of did a little weird deep dive into him, but this song, Don't Be Cruel, peaked at number 11 on Billboard Hot 100, and it was inducted to the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2002. And in 2008, Rolling Stones listed it at number 197 that was the 500 greatest songs, not the updated one, but the old one. And then, according to acclaimed music, it was like 173rd greatest song of all time. This song is, I think, like, it's my favorite Elvis song, I think, and it's because I'm not the hugest Elvis fan.
I love Elvis.
I know. But this is it's not he still has the classic like Elvis tone and voice to it that it's Elvis, but it's a little dialed back, I think, a little bit in this song.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's such a upbeat, almost like, but it is like a little like heavier, I guess, if you want to, like we kind of talked about in a way. But that is my number 8, Don't Be Cruel.
All right.
Number 7.
On to number 7. So number 7 for the list is Tutti Frutti by Little Richard.
Okay.
I wanted to put that on too. And there's literally all of these like classic rock and roll songs I wanted to put on my list, but did not have the space. All right. So my number 7 is What I'd Say, or What I'd Say Part 1 and 2 by Ray Charles. So this came out in 1959, just squeaked in the time frame. The background of this song is insane. So basically he was at like a show and he was supposed to play for like, I don't know, like 20 minutes or something, and he still had 12 minutes to fill. So he basically just told his backing vocals to like repeat kind of like a call and response style, repeat what he said right after him, and then he just improvised this entire song.
That's crazy.
Which is, it's insane. But yeah, apparently the call and response style was inspired by like church music that he grew up with, and apparently at the end of the night, the club goers literally just like gathered by him begging for the song's title so they could go buy it. So they went and like quickly recorded it so he could put it out because it literally was just a song he had just made up.
That's
insane.
Crazy. That's crazy.
But it peaked at number 6 on the charts, and it starts really like classic, energetic, like bluesy R&B piano that Sounds really ahead of its time, and then its melody is really infectious. Like, it just makes you want to dance. It's such a good song. It sounds like it's like in a movie, but I couldn't figure out what movie it was in, or if maybe there's a different version. But that's what I'd say for my number 7.
All right, my number 7 is Isles of Capri by Frank Sinatra, which is a deep cut Frank Sinatra. Off this album, Come Fly With Me, if you guys are watching.
We have some props on the
you
YouTube
guys are
channel.
watching
We got
on
a little
YouTube.
album cover here.
This is not a well-known Frank Sinatra song.
Yeah, I've never heard it, and I love Frank Sinatra.
It's like one of the hidden gems I think I found listening through. I love this song. It's very... It was written, I think, in the 30s. And it was just covered by Frank Sinatra, which he did a lot of his
Basically,
songs.
all his songs are
covers. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's it's a classic Frank Sinatra song, but I don't know. I don't even know what more to say about Frank Sinatra. I just love, Frank Sinatra.
Frank
you guys
Sinatra
know
is incredible.
This is one of, I think a very calming song too. A lot of his songs are actually, but this one I think particularly is definitely pretty calming. So that's my number 7, Isles of Capri.
All right, on to number 6.
Number 6, yes.
So number 6 for the list is Great Balls of Fire by Jerry Lee Lewis. Classic song.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my number 6 is Blue Skies by Ella Fitzgerald. This came out in 1958. It was originally written by Irving Berlin in 1926. So again, it's just one of those jazz songs that's super old, and like a million people, basically hundreds of singers have covered this song.
Yeah.
But her version actually won a Grammy Award for Best Vocal Performance for Female 1958. And it's kind of like a super happy song. It talks about like gray skies turning blue for the singer because she's found love, and I feel like hers stands out because she does like some scatting in the beginning, which sounds so like jazzy and cool. I feel like I could have picked like a million of her songs, but this is like a classic one where her voice really shines through, and I feel like it makes you want to like snap your fingers to it. Like, it's really catchy. And yeah, that's Blue Skies for my number 6.
All right, my number 6 is a kind of a left field pick.
Oh,
I absolutely love the song. It's Mr. Sandman by the Chordettes. Came out
I feel like that's not a left field pick. I love that song.
I know.
That's a classic, like 50s.
1954 it came out. So it was written by Pat Ballard, she wrote it and published it in the same year, 1954. And then the Chordettes recorded their version of the song the same year. The lyrics kind of convey a request to Mr. Sandman to bring me a dream. The traditional association with folklore figure, the Sandman, which the pronoun used to refer to the desired dream, often a change depending on the gender of the singer or group performing the song, as the original sheet music published. So Mr. and Mrs. Sandman.
Yeah.
It's a awesome song because it's very like fresh is I think a good way to describe it.
Yeah, it has that like airiness and like the bell kind of sound, the high pitched kind of like bell sound that a lot of 50s music has.
I had to put it on my list too because I first heard the song in a movie called Mr. Nobody, and it plays throughout the background, and it's such a perfect song to the background of that movie. And yeah, it's just such a, like you said, airiness of like, it's a very like refreshing song to hear of like, because it's not really rock and roll at all.
No, it's like
so
pop,
it's like pop.
say,
It's like 50s pop if there was 50s pop.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like refreshing to hear within like a whole playlist of let's just say like all these rock and roll songs that you get through in the 50s.
Yeah.
So that's my number 6, Mr. Sandman.
All right.
On to number 5.
Number 5. Let me get the list. Number 5 is La Bamba by Ritchie Valens. And
There's also another classic one.
yeah. My number 5 is Every Day by Buddy Holly. This came out in 1957 off his self-titled debut album, and it's listed as being written by Charles Hardin and Norman Petty, but Charles Hardin is actually just Buddy Holly's real name, because his real name wasn't Buddy Holly.
What? Really?
But yeah, it's a really like upbeat and hopeful song. It's kind of about a man trying to like, or he's like sure he's gonna find the woman of his dreams soon or whatever. But I feel like the lyrics are never all that interesting in 50s songs. They're just kind of like love songs most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
But it's the sound of this song that really gets me. It sounds so like dreamy and innocent, and it kind of has that like freshness that you were talking about. And the instrumentals are really simple, and so it's driven mostly by like his voice and kind of the amazing melody. But it's just so like catchy and unique. I love this song. But that is Every Day for my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is I Got the World on a String by Frank Sinatra. It came out in 1956 off of This Is Sinatra.
That song was definitely on a commercial for something, like a bank or something. It was like Be My Harris Bank.
Oh, I think you're right. I don't remember.
I just remember like hearing that all the time.
It originally was written and composed by Ted Koehler and Harold, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Harold Arnell for the 1932 Cotton Club Parade. It's been called like one of the most aggressively cheerful songs to come out of America's most dismal decade.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to look at it. It is very like a cheerful, like hopeful song. Like the singer is very like hopeful that he can kind of do whatever, you know. And it is very interesting to think about that was written in the 30s, where obviously the Great Depression was going on and stuff wasn't going great. So and Frank Sinatra's voice is, you know, we'll do an episode on him and gush about him some other time. But that is my number 5. I Got the World on a String.
All right, on to number 4.
Yes.
Number 4 for the list is I Walk the Line by Johnny Cash. I almost put that on, but we already did Johnny Cash.
Yeah, I tried to
talk that song to death.
I tried to avoid a couple artists that we already did. So
yeah. My number 4 is Love Me Tender by Elvis Presley. It came out in 1956. It was actually the theme song to the first of like the 31 Elvis movies that were made. Apparently the title of the movie was The Reno Brothers, but then it got renamed Love Me Tender to capitalize on the song because it was really popular.
Makes sense.
I didn't even know that the song was associated with the movie, but I guess that's a thing. Yeah, it's kind of like the ultimate like soft ballad. It's very simple, and it reached number 1 in the charts and stayed there for 5 weeks. And I feel like it's one of the most like honest and beautiful love songs. I don't think I put this on my love songs list, but it was really close. I think I put Can't Help Falling in Love instead. But this is one of my favorite Elvis songs. I don't know if it's my absolute favorite, but I'd really have to think hard on that because I love Elvis. But it's just a very pure and perfect song, and it kind of has his amazing crooning deep vocals. But yeah, that is Love Me Tender for my number 4.
All right, my number 4 is Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry.
Classic.
1959 it came out. I'm not sure when it originally was released. I know there was like the Berry is on top is that, and like Maybelline was on it, but the music was released very strangely back because they had like A and B sides of like a couple songs they would be released.
Yeah, albums weren't really a thing.
So what I could find is that album, but it was in the 50s. It peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and is widely considered one of the most iconic songs in rock and roll, and I completely agree.
Yeah.
The song is kind of based on his life, too, a little bit. It tells of a tale of a boy with humble beginnings with a talent for guitar, and some details were changed. Barry was from St. Louis, not Louisiana, and he knew how to read and write very well in the song.
Yeah.
He does not.
Yeah.
He graduated from beauty school with a degree in hairdressing and cosmetology. Did not know that.
That's
so I thought that was interesting. And I think the what people know, everyone should know this song. If you don't know the song, you'll know the song when you hear it.
Yes, it's a very recognizable song.
It's got like one of the most well-known catchy guitar riffs ever in a song, I think. And like how I kind of talked about with the other song by Chuck Berry, this is like the extreme, what I think of 50s, this is the song I think of. This is the iconic song that I think came out of the 50s of the like one of, not the first, but I think one of the best examples of like very early rock and roll.
Yeah.
Like with the the guitar,
It's got the
loud, fast pace.
The loudness and the pace
Yes.
is really important.
Yes.
Because it brings it up a notch, I think, compared to some of the other songs.
And like before, like even this, like you didn't hear that ever. So like even compare that to like a Frank Sinatra. Like it's just the two very vastly different.
I would have loved to been alive at that time and hear like some of these songs for the first time, because it must have been just completely mind blowing.
Yeah, I know, right?
That would have been so crazy.
It's like going from a lot of like even like in the 40s, more of the jazz era, and like then like hearing something like this would just be kind of mind blowing.
Be like completely different than anything you've heard before.
So that was my number 4, Johnny Be Good.
All right, on to number 3. So number 3 for the list is Rock Round the Clock by Bill Haley and His Comets. My number 3 is You Send Me by Sam Cooke. Came out in 1957. And I love Sam Cooke.
We'll be doing a Sam Cooke episode.
Absolutely, because he's literally so good. I didn't realize this came out in the 50s.
I didn't know he had any in the 50s. That's
yeah,
why
I knew he was kind of singing because he was in a group, like a gospel group,
before
gotcha.
He
like went solo and did like secular music. But yeah, so this was written by his brother actually. I think during the time when they were doing kind of gospel songs. His name is Charles Cooke. But this was kind of his first hit after being a successful gospel singer and kind of switching over. And it was a really big deal because it was kind of, he was turning his back on his faith almost.
Yeah.
It was a very big thing back then. But it was number 1 on both the Billboard's R&B Records chart and Hot 100. And it's just such a calming and beautiful song. His voice is so incredible. And it's very like touching, and it's a distinct voice. The way he sings is just like completely different than anyone else. And yeah, I love this song. It's very catchy. Like this song gets stuck in my head constantly. But that's You Send Me for my number 3.
All right, my number 3 is El Paso by Marty Robbins.
Ah, there it is.
Off that same album, Gunfighter Ballads and Trail Songs.
I was waiting for it.
It peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song is kind of about a person. It's a first-person narrative about a ill-fated love triangle that takes place in El Paso. This whole album's a big story. Each song's a different story, and I absolutely love this song. If it's not your thing, you definitely won't like it. Like Western kind of music, that kind of style of storytelling, and then very slow down, both melody and like the background music. It's
a very renowned ballad. Like I actually studied this in a creative writing class because it's written so well.
Yes, that's like lyrically like this whole album is very, very cool to listen to because you want to hear the songs because it's telling a story, and this is a great example of, I think, of a storytelling in a song for sure. And so that's my number 3, El Paso.
All right, on to number 2. So number 2 for the list is Jailhouse Rock by Elvis Presley. Not too surprising. My number 2 is Come Fly With Me by Frank Sinatra. And it came out in 1958 off of that album right there of the same name. So it was written by Jimmy Van Housen and Sammy Chan.
Khan, maybe?
I have no idea. Khan? I don't know. But apparently Van Housen had a passion for flying and moonlighted part-time as a test pilot during World War II, which I thought was interesting.
That is interesting.
And basically they wrote Come Fly With Me with Frank Sinatra in mind. It was basically written for him. And there's kind of a quote from a music person saying, I think that epitomized that decade and the good life and having a good time. America was just picking up the pieces from World War II, and the decade before they were in a war and things were changing in America. That song caught on, and that was one of the most popular one of his most popular albums. And I think that really captures kind of the context of when he was making music and when this came out.
You even look at like movies that came out in the 50s, and this like very big like spend money quick, live a good life.
It was like the economic prosperity of America at that time. And kind of like the idealized, American dream.
It's such a like I feel like the song is such a good like it gets you wanting to go on vacation or
Oh,
something
I
too.
know. But yeah, this is an absolute classic from, in my opinion, one of the best singers of all time. And
If not one of his best songs too.
it's not one of his best songs. It's not my favorite song by him, but it is a really good song. And I think my favorite song came out in the 60s, so that's why it's not on this list. But
I think I know what it is.
what my favorite Frank Sinatra song is?
Wait, maybe not.
It's tricky. I kind of have two. But yeah, I love the horns in the beginning of this, and apparently, so there's a couple different recordings, because he recorded it again later in his career, and I actually like that one better, because right at the end, he just like says, he doesn't sing, but he says, pack a small bag, and I just think that's so like funny and charming. Have you heard that version?
No, I haven't.
It's so, like, it's just like right at the end, he's just
That
like,
is
pack
funny.
a small bag, and I didn't realize there was like two different versions, because like,
Oh yeah.
sometimes I hear that part and sometimes I don't.
I would have to
but
listen to it on here. I don't know.
This one doesn't.
It doesn't?
No, but it's I
A
don't know
later
when
recording?
he recorded that one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, sometime later he recorded a different one. But yeah, that's Come Fly With Me for my number 2.
All right, my number 2 is Big Iron by Marty Robbins. Big Iron, between this and El Paso were kind of interchangeable, so I just went with this one. This peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and 26 on, Billboard peaked number 5 on the Country Billboard and peaked 26 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's written by Marty Robbins, and it's a country ballad about a unnamed Arizona Ranger who has a fateful duel with a notorious outlaw, Texas Red. It's such a
Such a Western
it
song.
is. It's such. I'm not even gonna. I've talked about Marty Robbins to death. I think already this podcast. So, yeah, another great story about that. What I just said, the topic, and it's so like it's catchy though too. Like I think that's the biggest other thing with like his songs is they're kind of catchy.
They're
in a
very
way.
melodic. Like,
Yeah.
They sound really nice, and I feel like I really like the whole like vibe of his songs, because they all sound different, but like they're very cohesive, where they have a similar kind of vibe to them.
So you just have to play the video game Red Dead Redemption,
Do you just listen to
and
that?
then you just listen to it because that takes place like in the early late 20th or 19th century.
Yeah.
Out west.
With all
but,
those with cowboys and whatnot.
But so that's my number 2, Big Iron.
All right.
I'm gonna do my number 1 before you.
Okay.
What's the list though? Number 1.
Yeah, because we don't have honorable mentions this time, because in case we do a part 2.
Yep.
But the number 1 for the list is Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry.
No surprise there. All right, my number 1.
Is it Come Fly With
It
Me?
is Come Fly With
Yeah,
Me,
I thought
and we
so.
kind of already talked about it, so I was gonna let you finish out on yours. So yeah, my number 1 is Come Fly With Me by Frank Sinatra. So what is your number 1?
All right, my number 1. I bet you can't guess it.
Is that Elvis song? No,
No.
you already did your favorite. I don't know.
My number 1 is April in Paris by Billie Holiday. I really love Billie Holiday. She's absolutely incredible. So this is off her album called it's called All or Nothing at All. That came out in 1958. And this song was originally sung by Ella Fitzgerald in like the 1930s and like a million other jazz singers since then. But it was written by Vernon Duke and Yip Harburg, but I just love it. It has like such a mood to it. Like it feels like you're just like sitting in a cafe in the afternoon, and it's so cool. Her voice is obviously incredible. I feel like everyone knows like her voice is so good.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just so unique, and it has like so much passion into it, and it has like this grittiness, but it still sounds amazing. And yeah, the song I feel like completely just transports you to a different time and place. It has a very like romantic, nostalgic feel, and I really love all her songs. Some of her other songs that are like I like more. I think they came out in the 60s or before, or in the 30s. When did she die? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I think my favorite song came out in like 39.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe we'll do a little episode on her, because she is a classic jazz singer. But yeah, that's April in Paris for my number 1.
All right, so that was a fun list. What's your kind of thoughts after seeing our?
Should we run
list?
down our?
Oh
our
yeah,
list
we should.
first?
We should.
We
should. My brain, sometimes forget what we're supposed to do in these podcasts.
Yeah.
All right. You can go first.
All right, so my number 10 was I Get Along Without You Very Well by Chet Baker. My number 9 was Manish Boy by Muddy Waters. My number 8 was How Many More Years by Helen Wolfe. My number 7 is What I'd Say Part 1 and 2 by Ray Charles. My number 6 is Blue Skies by Ella Fitzgerald. My number 5 is Every Day by Buddy Holly. My number 4 is Love Me Tender by Elvis Presley. My number 3 is You Send Me by Sam Cooke. My number 2 is Come Fly With Me by Frank Sinatra. And my number 1 is April in Paris by Billie Holiday.
All right. My number 10 was Billy the Kid by Marty Robbins. My number 9 was Maybelline by Chuck Berry. My number 8 was Don't Be Cruel by Elvis. My number 7 was Isles of Capri by Frank Sinatra. My number 6 was Mr. Sandman by the Chordettes. Number 5 is I Got the World on a String by Frank Sinatra. Number 4 was Johnny B. Good by Chuck Berry. My number 3 was El Paso by Marty Robbins. My number 2 was Big Iron by Marty Robbins. And my number 1 was Come Fly With Me by Frank Sinatra.
Now we can do our
So what you think after seeing these lists?
Yeah, I mean, I liked kind of exploring the different genres in the 50s because I feel like when you listen to 50s music, sometimes it's like all rock and roll or like the pop kind of stuff. But I really enjoyed like looking at the blues and the R&B and jazz, and because there's a lot of different genres going on that really influenced music to come. Which I thought was really fun to look at.
Yeah, I think definitely because it was like the birthplace of rock and roll was the 50s for sure, but there was a bunch of other music that was obviously being played and a lot of stuff that bled from the 30s and 40s that made it to the 50s.
Yeah.
Was interesting definitely to see. And the vast different, like, go from a Frank Sinatra song to a Chuck Berry song or go to a, an Elvis song.
Yeah.
There's so many different.
I really love listening to, like, older music like this that just sounds like it doesn't belong in that decade. Like, there's so much of it that just sounds like it's completely ahead of its time. I feel like sometimes the 50s, not that they get a bad rap, but they kind of get, like, a reputation for being, like, boring or like stale or
not I completely agree.
Interesting as like 60s music because music kind of blew up in the 60s, but I feel like there's still a lot of interesting and complex songs going on in the 50s that
there's a lot of fun sounding songs in the 50s, and I think the biggest takeaway from looking through the 50s is there's a lot of just feel-good music, I think, in the 50s. Even there are, like, complex songs, but it's like music doesn't always have to be super complex to be good music, so...
Yeah, with, like, the pop, at least. That's how it was, for sure. I'm excited to go forward and do
I don't know.
Next.
It's maybe once a month. I don't know. We haven't really decided yet, but...
Yeah, well, we'll at some point in the future, we will have
do the 60s
episode.
So that wraps up this episode of New, Old, and Songs Untold. Thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe to our YouTube. Like the video. It will be up eventually. I know I've been kind of lacking on that. Follow our social medias, Twitter and Instagram, @Songs Untold. You can listen to, we will put our top 10s on the playlist.
Yes.
The New, Old, and Songs Untold Spotify playlist.
So close. It's New, Old, and Songs Untold podcast playlist.
Ah, that's right. See, that's why you always say it.
I always say it. That's like my one job here, really, is just to say that in the outro.
And as always, next week, or our next episode, we have no idea what we're going to be doing yet.
No, probably an artist.
Yes, probably an artist.
Yeah.
We have a couple in mind. Don't know yet. But, so, thank you guys for listening, and have a great rest of your week.